So, Chef, if you could give me like a 15-second intro on who you are and what you do.
Sure. Chef Michael Lachlan. I am the CDC at Dolce Italian in Philadelphia. I'm responsible for in dining and in-room dining. I have a team of about 30 individuals. They expect prep lists, ordering, and direction on cuisine from me. So I shoulder the responsibility of serving my staff.
I hear that. Servant leadership, sir. Servant leadership. Now, you and I have worked together in more than one location. We worked together in Dolce, and then we worked together at another place as well. Is that right?
Dolce and Scarpetta in Philadelphia.
Both. So can you share with me a little bit about what your life looked like kind of before we arrived, some of the struggles, some of the challenges, the pain points that you dealt with before we got there?
Yeah, I would say execution is the difference, because in a contract, you can have this sort of like dream what you want to walk into every day, and everybody's really happy to sign and take money, but it really comes down to the pride that's not in print. That was the difference with Patriot. The kitchen spoke when I would walk in the morning. The kitchen spoke pride, and that energizes me as a chef to not make a mess, but to utilize the space, feel that surfaces are ready and almost inviting. The kitchen was made inviting by your team.
Thank you, Chef. I appreciate that. That makes me feel really good. Sometimes I feel like that's kind of like what's lost in the industry. The business that I'm in, like I'm kind of behind the scenes, and people don't necessarily always get the opportunity to interface on what the work product is. A lot of what I've said over the years is protecting the brand and image of an organization in the front half of the house. And we're protecting other things too as well. Morale, health and safety. And a lot of that really is, I think the challenge in this business is a lot of it has become commoditized. It's all about the cheapest possible price and that type of thing. And it comes down to the bottom line item. And what really gets lost in that is, what do you really bring to the table in terms of work ethic? You can train people all you want, but you can't train them for care and caring about the end result. And that's just, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. If we weren't having an interview, it means a lot. So right when you and I started working together, there were some things helped out with that got the ball rolling, right? So there were maybe one or two things clicked right away. I mean, was there like an initial first win for us, an initial change, or something that you experienced when we got in and run really made a difference, or made you kind of go, well, wait a minute, okay, this is different than what we're used to?
I would say really the floors. When you step on a floor and it's dry and not greasy with no debris, the floors at Scarpetta in the kitchen, they were always a challenge. But I would say that was really the difference, was I could smell and feel that the floors were clean. And for whatever reason, the previous company, whether it was figuring out exactly what kind of chemical they needed to use, or I don't know what their excuse was, stepping onto the floor for the first time felt clean.
Right. Awesome. Now, we had experience with providing you with cleaning service, but also providing you with personnel, right? So I know for a period of time, at least, we supplemented your staff with some hospitality staffing as well. Did you have a positive experience with that? I mean, how did we do there?
We were flying by the seat of our pants coming out of COVID. So everybody has to understand that. There was a lot of self-forgiveness because of trying to make moves in an environment that was almost suffocating from a labor standpoint, and trying to execute in that environment. So a lot of self-forgiveness. I liked that there was a labor force was available next day. From a prep cook standpoint, I had an amazing, I held on to the prep cook for over a year. I thought I was getting involved in something for 3 months, and I liked that person so much that we kept it going for extended period of time. And there was so much value in that relationship. Yes, chef was pretty much what I got. I choose a lot of times in my career to focus on the positives. And from a prep cook standpoint, it was so much positive. It was a person that went from cutting carrots and celery and onions to, hey, can you try cooking this thing, to let me teach you how to make a cheesecake. Let me teach you how to do our bread program. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden I can't live without you.
Nice, nice. Well, that's what you really, in my industry, my end of the industry, when you're trying to find people, the challenge is find people that show up ready to, or with a deep understanding of what needs to be done. And, we come back to the kind of the same thing we started out with, which is sometimes I might not be able to bring somebody to the table that already has the entire skill set. But we also find that from location to location, there's a lot of things that are different. Expectations are different. Menus are different. Where things are located are different. So you can't really train as people who really care and want to do well and want to succeed and want to learn. If we can give you sometimes somebody who has some of the background and the ingredients, what I find is often the ingredient is the attitude that's missing. So if you can get somebody who's good and has that raw material, you can build on that. I'm really glad that you shared that, because it means that mission accomplished. I mean, we won't always check every box in every situation. You and I agree, COVID really threw us for a loop, man. It's just encouraging for me because, and now we have prep cooks and line cooks all over the US. And we don't always stick the landing, but more frequently than not, and it's because when we're screening and trying to find the right people, we're looking for people that really want to learn and want to get better and want to improve and want to answer, yes, chef. And I love that.
Right. But the challenge with that is you can't train care. You also can't scale care. You can only scale culture. So my job as a chef is to create a culture. And even if a couple people don't have the right attitude, they sort of have a choice: either be isolated from the culture as a radical agent, or come on board, at least for the time that you're clocked in for 8 hours. But you can't scale attitude. It doesn't, there's no training program out there that will get attitude out of somebody. And for whatever reason, it's not something you can, like, I can make one great loaf of bread. I can make 100 loaves of bread. I can scale that. I can't scale attitude. I think it's an intrinsic challenge in life.
Would you say, aside from the positive brought you, that one of the main things we brought was good attitude and good work ethic?
Yeah, I enjoyed working with your overnight cleaners so much. I actually, over time, probably tipped them about $300 individually in cash.
Well, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. That's awful, awful nice. And
they also didn't have to care about cleaning my kitchen.
Right.
But they did.
Were you at Scarpetta for a moment? Well, I think we started in 2007?
9 years. Yeah, I was there since 2011.
Okay. So you were there actually 2011. So you were there before it was Scarpetta then, is that right?
Yeah, I was at La Croix next door.
Okay. What would you say to someone who's watching right now and, thinking about coming on board with us, but they're uncertain about Patriot USA? What would you say?
I would say Patriot is a great company if you enjoy decentralized command. In other words, if you have a strong sense of ownership and problem solving ability, and you enjoy, I think there's a difference. There's people that like to be told what to do, and there's people that like to figure out what needs to get done and do it. I found that the Patriot employees were, I'm going to figure out how to do this and own it, and not stand around waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. The advantage to that is people can sort of tailor an experience that works for them. Do your job in a way that works for you, rather than have someone micromanage you for your entire shift, criticizing your work. And how about, this is the result, this is the goal, make it happen. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's the kind of company I would want to work for. I don't know if that's really something you can put on paper or on classified ad, but if you had a small business, that mentality is what a Patriot employee has. They treat it as if it's their own.
All right, so here's the part where I get a little teary-eyed. Thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. 1998, when I started out doing this, I came from a combat search and rescue helicopter squadron. And when basically it was like two ways in command, they say, right? And the one way of command is that micromanaging aspect that you talk about.
Yeah, communism.
Yes, exactly. And I never really fared well in that. And I never really did well with leadership that took that type of tack in terms of the way they approach things. But Patton always said, I give people a job to do, I don't tell them how to do it. And I always felt that I gave people the expectation, and ultimately what we were looking for was some guidelines and some direction, but then enabled them the ability, because let's face it, every organization, no matter where it is, they all have their own culture. They all have their own pulse. They all have their own, there's a lot of personalities involved. I've found over the years that my pre-instruction, based on my perceptions of what needed to happen, and the reality once boots were on the ground and they started to really navigate their way around, learning not only the organization and the pulse and the pattern and the personalities or whatever, when I gave them that leverage to be able to decide and make those own decisions fly, I got a better product out of it. And you said the key word, I got more ownership. People, they felt like I gave them a level of trust. And they took that trust and ran with it, and we had better results. So your conversation with me goes a long way to reaffirming some things that sometimes we hope is happening in the field. And then conversations like this kind of at least tell me that I believe that what we're doing is on the right track. And if I haven't said it before, I appreciate you, Chef. You went to bat for us a couple of times in some areas where things got dicey about stuff like getting paid and things like that. And you went to the well and said, hey, wait a minute, what's fair is fair and what's right is right. And I appreciate it.
There's a lot of inhumanity in a business that is, if I can't empathize, I lose, whether it's with an employee, a vendor, or a guest. If I can't put myself in that person's shoes and understand that the golden rule applies in all of these relationships, then what kind of person am I? If I can't empathize with someone who's coming in for 4 hours cleaning up a mess that I made, if I can't act in a way to look that person in the eye, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of people that just walk away and figure it's someone else's job. We're paying these people. And I always told the line cooks, like, if you don't pick up a scrubby and do something here before these people come in, do you think that they are really going to care? If they walk in here and if we don't take the saute pans down off the ovens, you just think that they're going to, Patriot, they will take the saute pans down and put them back after they're done. But why don't we take the saute pans down?
Right.
So that they can do what they need to do, and show that if we were the ones cleaning up after someone else, that person tried to pass the baton in a manner that said, "Hey, we know you're coming. We appreciate it. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way for you so you can at least, you know what I'm saying?"
Be thorough.
It's hard to write that. It's hard to explain that, that thing. Like,
Well, you did it in an articulate way, and thank you. Like, these things are based on relationships. And I've been in situations where we've gone in and for whatever reason was commoditized, and people kind of like kitchen team was like, woo, they dropped the mic on the way out, and you walk in and World War III was there. And then you realize that the most successful evolution we can have is one where we become an integral part of the team and the end product and the result that we're all looking for, which is excellence. And it certainly works a lot better when the words and music align. And when we work with, and I have a friend of mine, we do work with Four Seasons in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the GM at the Four Seasons says, we were standing in the entranceway in the fall last year, just rubbing elbows and talking. And he said, business is all really just about relationships. And the first takeaway of that is, oh, it's the relationship between he and I and between the management teams or whatever. And it's not that. It's relationships from bottom up. I'm a servant leader like you. And when there's a level of integration at the entry level, people are working together and respecting each other through the entire process, and everybody is on the same page, the result we all get is better. So I would work with you no matter where you go, my friend, just so you know that. Right. And I'll follow you anywhere you go. Okay. So whether it's working for another organization or the day when you open up your own gig or whatever, just know, you know what I mean? Like, my phone number has not changed in 25 years, and I don't think it's planning to change it in any time soon. So you just reach out and send a text message, and that's personal or professional. I have you, my friend. I'll follow you anywhere.